Every once in a while I do get a repair and I look at it and I just say, nope. My name is Steve and I bought 23 broken Nintendo Switches. Why would I buy 23 broken Nintendo Switches, you might ask? Because I make bad decisions? Just kidding, the actual reason is because I'm gonna try and fix them and see if I can make money on them. I paid $1,955 for these 23 broken switches. That comes out to $85 each. That means in order to break even on this lot, I need to fix at least 13 broken switches. Now with that all being said, let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is separate out all the switches that have charge ports that are definitely broken. I'm gonna be looking down in the port to see if there's any physically broken pins. You can see for sure on this port and this port, you can see the shiny pins down there, so we know these ports need to be replaced. This charge port up here doesn't have any of those pins that are broken or bent or anything, so that port does not need to be replaced. So I'm going to separate all those out first, and then we'll get to diagnosing the rest. So I have 16 that do not have broken charge ports, at least from external evaluation, and I have 7 that do have broken charge ports. So we need to get these charge ports replaced, and then we need to diagnose the rest of these. Now to diagnose these Nintendo Switches that don't have USB-C port problems, at least that I can see externally, I'm going to be using this Power Jive test meter. I'll leave a link down in the description if you would like to buy one of these for yourself. It's an invaluable tool when figuring out what's going on with the rest of these switches. And here we go on this first switch. We're going to plug it in and see what the reading is. 0.36, but nothing at all on the screen. Normally, even if the battery is totally discharged, when you plug it into a good charger and the charge port is good, there will be at least a charging icon up on the screen. This switch has nothing going on, so we'll have to tear it open and see exactly what's going on with this one. I'm going to work on getting the rest of these switches diagnosed, and then I'll tell you what I find. If you watch my first few videos where I took a whole bunch of switches and tried to fix them, you know that I was fairly successful, but there was quite a few things that I didn't know how to fix. Now that I've been fixing switches for quite a while, I've learned quite a bit about it, and I know much quicker how to diagnose them and how to figure out what's going on and if they're going to be fixable or not. So I have 14 that have motherboard problems we need to look into further. I've got 7 that need USB-C ports replaced, and then I've got 2 that did show the charge symbol that I'm going to charge up and see if they fully charge on their own. Now I got to get all these repaired. I'm hoping for at least 13, but hopefully a lot more. Wish me luck. That's pretty much all I have to do to replace their USB-C ports on these. Now I do need to recheck all the pins and make sure they're soldered down all correctly, but other than that, that's all there is to it. Now I need to do that 6 more times and then I'll be done with the USB-C ports. After that, I do need to recheck these boards and make sure the charge chips and the video chip are all good and don't show any shorts, and I'll show you guys that once I get there. All 7 of those USB-C ports have been replaced. Now I need to check all the charge chips and the video chips to make sure they're all good. I'll show you how I do that next. What I'm going to be doing is checking for shorts along the capacitors of this chip, and then I'll flip it over to the video chip on the other side to check and see if these chips are shorted out and need replacing. So the first capacitors we're going to check are over here. A long beep like that means there is no resistance to ground, so this capacitor, it has a direct path to ground on this side and does not have that on the other side, which is normal for a capacitor. Let's check this one. So there's a direct path to ground there and a direct path to ground there. So that is a shorted capacitor. Normally that means this chip is faulty. I'm going to check the others and see what they show. That capacitor is also shorted. So we have this capacitor shorted and this capacitor shorted. This normally indicates that this chip is faulty. Well, let's get that replaced and see if it fixes it. This is the M92T36 chip. This chip, at least from what I can tell, kind of decides whether this is acting as a charger, the USB-C port, or whether it's acting as a video pass-through. So this chip is what is responsible for that as far as I can tell. So we're going to replace that. I'm going to put some flux around the chip. That is going to be the liquid you see I put on it. Then I'm going to use hot air to melt the solder so I can remove this chip and put the replacement chip on. Now that we have that chip replaced, I'm going to recheck those capacitors and see if there's any shorts. Okay, that short is gone. And that short is gone. Now that those shorts are gone, let's check these capacitors over here. We'll check the coil. No problems there. And no problems with the fuse. Now let's check the video chip on the other side. And this right here is the video chip. So let's check this capacitor here. And no shorts there. Now that I have the USB-C port replaced, the charge chip replaced, and we've tested all the capacitors around each of those chips and found no more shorts, I'm comfortable plugging in a battery to see what kind of voltage and charge amperage we have. And depending on those readings, that'll tell us whether this board is working or not. So here I have a USB meter that'll tell me charging amps and volts. That's all I need to test to see whether this motherboard is working. I have links in the description for all the parts and tools I use for these types of repairs if you would like to buy them for yourself. What should happen here is you should see this number go to 0.46 or so, and then it should wait a couple seconds, and then it just should jump up to well over 1 volt. And with a known good battery, let's see what those numbers are. 0.46. Let's see if it jumps up to fast charging. And there we go. Now, the key here is we do have to try it the other way too, because there are some problems that can cause it to charge with this cable in one way, but not the other way. And there we go. So this motherboard itself is fixed. We'll need to put it back into the switch it came out of to check everything else on the switch, but the motherboard so far has been fixed. So for number 21, if we go across this capacitor on the video chip, you can see that it is shorted. That means this video chip is likely faulty. So I'm gonna replace that, and then we'll see if that takes care of that short. And now we'll check that capacitor to see if it's still shorted. Uh-oh, and it is. Well, this is not good news. Normally when that is still shorted after replacing that, that means the main CPU on the board is faulty. I'm actually gonna take this chip back off and then see if this capacitor is still shorted. There is a small chance that this chip is faulty from my supplier. So let's take that back off and see if the short's still there. Now with the chip removed, let's see if that capacitor is still shorted. Yes it is. Well, that's bad news. Number 21 is not going to be fixable. Unfortunately, the way this motherboard was designed, it's made so, for example, if some of these charge pins accidentally touch two of the wrong ones, that can actually send power directly to the CPU on the motherboard and basically just short it out, so there's no hope of saving this one. Unfortunately, manufacturers designed these types of motherboards not with repairability in mind, because a couple extra fuses on this motherboard would have saved it. But that all being said, let's move on to the next one and see how that one looks. Out of those 7 motherboards, 6 of them were fixable, 1 was not. Now I need to get these installed into the cases so we can check the LCD and the other functions and see if these are going to be fully working Nintendo Switches. I have 17 I'll put back together. And I was just gonna wait to try them all at once, but I gotta try this one first. Let's see if it works. Okay, most likely all we're gonna get is a charge symbol since the battery's so drained, but let's see if we get that. Come on. Yes! There we go, we have a charge symbol. That's great news. That means the display is working. Now I gotta let it get all charged up and then see if it works fully. Now I gotta get all the rest put back together and their batteries all charged, so I'll see you in a couple hours. So far, I've fixed those 6 out of 23 of these broken Nintendo Switches. We're almost halfway to our goal of getting at least 13 fixed, but I've got a whole bunch more here to try and fix. So let's see how many of these are fixable. Now, if you remember, all of these are switches where the USB-C is good, but they still don't power on, still don't take a charge. So I need to get the backs off of all of them and start doing testing on the motherboards. And now that the back is off, I'm gonna disconnect the battery. And now we'll test for shorts around these chips like we did with the other repairs. So normally when I find no shorts on any of the capacitors around these, I usually just replace the M92T36. So I'll go ahead and do that and see if this one starts working. Battery is plugged in. Let's see what it does. 0.46, good. Oh, but the bad news is that the backlight is not on. Let me flip it over and see if there's anything on the screen. With the backlight not on, there basically can't be, but yeah, that's no good. So unfortunately, number 1 isn't fixable. Let's move on to number 2. So number 2 charges at 0.24 and no display. So let's check those capacitors. Okay, all of the capacitors are not shorted. I'm gonna try putting a good battery in this and then see what the charging voltage is. 0.46, do we have a light, a backlight? Oh no. Well, unfortunately, number 2 is also not fixable. That's 2 in a row that's not fixable. I've got 6 that are fixable and so far 3 that are not. Hopefully our luck starts turning up. We need to get a couple more of these fixed to at least break even, but I'd love to see a good profit on it. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 has no charging amps and no display. So let's take the back cover off. Oh, there we go. That could definitely cause it. So I'm gonna get this board out so we can look at the other side and then clean up all this corrosion and see if it works or if we need to replace anything. Okay, I have all the screws out. let's get this board out and see what it looks like on the backside. Oh, we are very lucky. There is no corrosion at all on the backside. This one we might actually get very lucky with. Obviously we've got a lot of corrosion right here and we got to see why it's not charging, but this could be an easy liquid damage repair. I'm going to clean up all of this corrosion here and then we'll test it and see if we have any other problems. We're going to start by checking for shorts. Okay, so this component I'm not checking for shorts. I'm checking to see if there is a path through. This is basically just a coil in here. So the multimeter should be beeping right now because there should be very low resistance and it's not beeping at all. So if this is faulty, it can definitely cause a no charge problem. So that's what I'm suspecting so far. Everything checks out except for this coil and possibly this chip, but with all these capacitors not being shorted, I think this chip's probably fine. So I think we might just have a problem with the coil. Luckily, we've got some extra motherboards that are just junk that we can steal this coil off of. So let's get that replaced next and see if that fixes it. .46, great news. Let's see if it goes to fast charging. Yes. So we have number 3 fixed. That means we fixed 7 out of 23. Let's move on to the next one. Number 4 has 0.32 and no display. Let's hope the CPU on this one is good. I'm gonna get the back off and see what the motherboard looks like. So the indicator was set off. Oh, we got some liquid damage here and liquid damage up there. Definitely some down here. So another motherboard that has to come out. I'll get the motherboard out and show you guys what I find. Let's see how bad the bottom looks. The case doesn't have any liquid damage here. I did notice even on the card reader, there's liquid damage there. Let's see how this looks. We got some liquid here, some corrosion over here. Yeah. Unfortunately, this one is not one that I'd be comfortable selling even if I could fix it. So number 4, I'm gonna call not fixable. Even though I technically may be able to fix it, it's not something I'm comfortable selling to someone else. So we have another one that's not fixable. Let's move on and try out number 5. Okay, and let's hope no liquid damage. All right, no liquid damage. Okay, we got a shorted capacitor here. That usually means the video chip on the other side is faulty. Okay, and with the video chip off, do we still have a short? Oh no! Yes, yes we do. Well, unfortunately, number 5 is also not fixable. I went from super confident in this lot to, well, not as confident, but I've still got a lot to go. I'm still hopeful. Let's move on to number 6 and see what happens. Number 6 is yet another 0.46 and no display, which means shorted CPU, and another not fixable. Let's move on to number 7. We finally have another one fixed. Number 7 is fixed. Hopefully that means good luck for the rest of them. Let's move on to number 8. Wow, so this is not good news. I just took off the SD card reader. Look at all of this corrosion already. I've still got to get the rest of the screws out, but number 8 is definitely not looking good. And here we go. That part is really bad. The rest of it, well, it actually doesn't look too bad so far. I have to decide whether it's worth trying to fix. Oh, we got some more down here. So right down here, there's a bunch more corrosion. Let me get you guys zoomed in. So we got all this corrosion over here. Then we also have a bunch more corrosion down here. And then the other side of the board likely has corrosion too. I think this is going to be another one that we just aren't going to be able to fix permanently. That's not one that I would sell to anyone, so we're going to move on to number 10. Every once in a while I do get a repair and I look at it and I just say, nope. Number 10 is another not fixable. And now the non-fixable has caught up to the fixable. We've got 8 fixable, 8 non-fixable, and I've got 7 more to try and fix. I need to fix 5 of those to get to the 13 to break even, so I've only got 2 to spare, and this is not looking so good anymore. But you never know, wish me luck on number 11. 0.46 and no backlight. No surprise there, I guess. Well, let's move on to number 13. Here we go. 0.46 and no backlight. Now it's important to note right now that I need to fix all 5 of the rest of the switches in order to just break even on this lot. These have not been going so well. I did great on the USB-C repairs as all of those were fixable except for one, but unfortunately these ones have not been great. I still have, actually I don't have very much hope, but you never know. Let's see what happens with the last 3 of these and then the other 2 that show the charge symbol but won't charge up all the way. Here we go with number 14. All right, here we go. This video chip has definitely been blown out. You can see a mark right there on the chip. You can actually even see a mark down here on the back of the case. So there's a lot of voltage that went through this. So we got to replace this and then put a small trace wire from this all the way up to this filter. We also have to test the filter to make sure that it is good as well. And here you can see exactly what I'm talking about up closer. This big bubble in this chip means that there's a lot of voltage and heat that went through this thing. And then you can even see down here, this little pin right here. Totally burned. So we got to get that off, put a new one on, and then we've got to repair this connection right here on this trace from the filter so we can make sure that we have a good connection from the filter over to the chip, and then we also have to test this filter and make sure it wasn't burned out as well. And here we have our fully repaired motherboard. Now we need to test it. I already tested to make sure there were no other problems with this, and there's no problems with the chip. That capacitor is now not shorted, so I think we're good there. Now we need to plug in a good battery and our charger and see what the charging amperage is. And here we go. 0.46, good. Will it fast charge? Yes, it will. That means this board is fixed. So number 14 was fixable. We've got 4 more to try and fix. If we can fix them all, I'm gonna easily break even on this. Let's move on to the next switch. So number 15 is not fixable, which means we officially can't break even. Although there is one other thing I can do. All of these switches right here actually would sell on eBay pretty well. It's pretty hard to find a broken switch on eBay for less than $100. I only paid $85 each for these, so I actually could sell them on eBay and probably actually even make a profit on this entire lot. So I still want to try and fix these last 3 as all hope is not lost, and I probably actually could still make some money on this lot. I have one more that doesn't charge properly, but then I also have those 2 that do show the charge indicator on the screen, but just never fully charge up. And I've got a great trick for those, but I want to check this one out first, and then we'll look at those 2. And guess what? More liquid damage. So looking at this connector, this is definitely a problem right here. There's a torn or a corroded trace on this backlight connector. So that's definitely one of the causes of our no display problem. So one thing that's easy to do is just take this motherboard out. Since I've got so many other switches that are not functioning, I can just put this in one of the other housings and see what happens then, see if I get a display. We have our connector over here all fixed up, so that shouldn't be a problem now. Let's see what readings we get. 0.46, and well, even after all that work, number 16 still doesn't work. It's got the 0.46 with no display, which means, well, you know what it means. It means the CPU is shorted, and number 16 also isn't fixable. I'm super surprised at this lot. I can't believe how many are not fixable so far. My other salvage lots of Nintendo Switches that I bought have turned out way better than this. I'll be putting a card up on your screen here just in a minute, so you can go check that out if you'd like. So then you can see me actually make some money on one of these lots of Nintendo Switches. I also want to say, whenever I do one of these videos, I get a ton of people asking if I can fix theirs and how do they send it in. And while that is something I used to do, I don't actually repair Nintendo Switches as a service anymore. But one of the technicians that did work with me as a contractor that I trained how to repair these and basically any of the other game consoles, he started his own business called TronicsFix. I'll put a link down in the description if you would like to contact him about your broken Switch or PS4 or Xbox. Now I'm gonna look at those other two switches that show the charge symbol on the screen, but they never go to fast charging, and I'll show you a trick for them. So this is switch number 9. When we plug it in, it'll show 0.46 and it'll turn the backlight on. Backlight. Now we have no display. Now we have fast charging, but we still have no display. Whoa. Okay, I actually don't know what's going on with this one. This one's working fine now. It even goes to fast charging. Alrighty then. Number 9 is fixed. That one was easy. Let's move on to the next one. I will test number 9 off camera more just to make sure that it's fixed. I do want to check that charge port and just make sure it's not gummed up or anything. Sometimes it just gets food or debris lodged in there and it makes a faulty connection. So that may be what's going on with that one. I'll check it more later. Let's get to the last switch. Okay, now I'll show you what I was gonna show you with the other switch. So this one will go to 4.46. It'll show the backlight here, but all it's gonna do is show the charge symbol. And no matter how long we leave it on the charger, that's the only thing it will do. So what seems to be the problem is somehow something happens in here where, for whatever reason, the switch won't let the battery get charged anymore. It basically turns off charging to the battery. So it just charges at this basically forever and never actually gets to fast charging. So what I've done is I have this charging board. You can actually get these charging boards just off of Amazon for super cheap, a couple dollars for a pack of 10. And I've connected it to a connector for the Switch battery. So what I'm gonna do is connect this to this connector, and then I will plug this in right here, so this board will be charging the battery instead of the motherboard on the Switch. So there we go, we have the charging board running to the battery and charging up the battery. Now usually this type of charging setup only takes 20 to 30 minutes to actually get the battery charged enough so the Switch will actually turn on. Now every once in a while this doesn't actually work, every once in a while it is actually a bad battery, but this charging hack will repair normally about 80%, I would guess, of this type of charging situation. Unfortunately, I was only able to fix 11 out of these 23 broken Nintendo Switches. It hurts me to say that because I'm so much better at fixing these than I used to be, but unfortunately the 0.46 and no display is just not something anyone can fix, as the CPU is just shorted out and there's no way to repair that. Now that all being said, like I said earlier, I can actually sell these for a decent amount of money, so I probably will still get pretty close to breaking even. I might even make a little bit of profit off of it. If you want to see me actually make money on a lot of salvaged Nintendo Switches, I'll put a link up on your screen for one of those videos now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good one.